Okay, hello. I think something's up with my camera. Let's see. Yeah, look at that. That's weird. Let's see if I can do something about this. Does it hook back in or there we go. Let's see now if it works. Maybe I have to restart. It's kind of weird behavior. Anyways, I think I fixed it. Yeah. Hopefully. Okay. So we almost had it working. But not completely. So before we actually make the bundler environment run or try to debug that, we're going to change the Surface API so that we have this sandbox thing. So we're going to keep this one around, old, and then we're going to export interface Sandpack provider props. And we're not going to do any like stuff like this. We're rather going to say sandbox. And this is going to be, well, first of all, we need children, of course. We also need this class name and style. But sandbox is going to be these three types. So let's call them sandbox. Should we call them sandbox? I'm going to call them sandbox. And this is going to be a type of template. It's going to be a type of sandbox, or it's going to be a type of sandbox session. Might change these names, but and when you have a type of template, you can have files, and those are going to be Sandpack bundler files. You can have, yeah, and when you're on an environment, when you're on a type of template, you can also choose an environment. And based on the environment, so that would be so here you would have data like sandbox DTO kind of thing. Let's just call it ID string for now. And this will be like a session. This also has an ID. Let's just say sandbox here. And the template is different. So when you have it, sorry. So you don't actually have, maybe we shouldn't call it template even. Yeah, because this is the thing that's broken my brain, is that with a VM, you conceptually can have a template, but it's not really a template in the sense that you're like writing files to it and stuff. It's just opening a sandbox, a VM sandbox. Well, I guess that's up for discussion, because we did talk about like, okay, what if we have a VM template that's just empty? And then we would write files to it. You could still pass in files, and we would write those files to that template. But the point is that we can't do that unless we actually fork the initial template or the initial VM. And that means that by the sheer fact of opening Sandpack, you create a bunch of VMs that doesn't necessarily need to run. So I think that should rather be a limitation. It's like you rather open a sandbox session on an ID which is your template, and then you can rather set it to like read only, and by doing so it'll have to fork. But then you can't like actually write files. You can't have the same files as you have on a local template. Yeah, that's really tricky. So currently we can only allow you to have templates that are local. But then it's weird to call it template, because a VM is also a template, but then we would have to define the environment. So you say like static or a bundler or node. So if you do that, you can add files, you can add dependencies. But if you want to do a VM template, I think you can still call it a template. It's just that it's only when you have static bundler or node that you can actually add files and dependencies and stuff. Yeah, and you would have like entry. I guess main doesn't make any sense. But here, when you do type sandbox, you're gonna give it the actual sandbox data, and it will be able to infer what environment we should run based on the sandbox data. Oh, but then we have one thing. Dagnagit. There's one thing. It's just never ending, isn't it? So there's one thing we didn't consider here. It's that if you're gonna pass in a sandbox session, like when you have an ID to a sandbox, you don't know you don't know if that's gonna return a sandbox session, or like, sorry, you don't know if that sandbox is a browser sandbox or VM sandbox. Like you can check it on the data, but if the sandbox is a VM sandbox, you also have to start the sandbox to create a sandbox session. Why is this complaining? Oh, it's not a generic. Oh, yeah, let's just call it old. Template name, Sandpack predefined templates. So here we have these different templates, and it defines the environment. Static template. You see the files, and it has main. What's the different difference between main and entry? I wonder. This also has main. It doesn't have entry. I need to check that. But this doesn't define a specific environment. Well, okay, it calls it environment solid. What's that? Oh, that's something else. We need to figure that one out. Oh, environment solid? Is that like passed into, where's this being passed? Oh, interesting. Doesn't have any reference. Is this being passed into the bundler? I don't know. But what should we do here? Oh, where did my code go? Let's see, environment options. And this is going to be Sandpack environment options. Optional. But yeah, I wonder about what we're going to do here. Let's call this main instead, because it seems to be main. Maybe it should actually be there. Does not necessarily have dependencies. Yeah, so what we can do is, like, we can have an expectation that, okay, you have to pass in a sandbox session here. So whenever you go and grab the ID of a sandbox, you have to know if that sandbox, like either it returns a sandbox session if it's an actual VM sandbox, or it will return the actual sandbox. Yeah, but it should be like VM session, I guess. Yeah, it's kind of tricky, all the terminology, because we currently call the VMs also sandboxes. But maybe we can call it a VM sandbox. But what does it mean to have a template? It just means, maybe we shouldn't even call it a template, in the sense that it really just means I'm going to run something locally. Local. Yeah, like what is the type? Is it, there's so many factors here. It's like, how is it, is it persisted? So from the perspective of persisted, it means that either you have a sandbox that's like local, where you can run the static, bundler, or node environment, or you can have a type of, but then sandbox and VM sandbox, like VM makes sense, but then this would be like persisted, and that doesn't make sense. So I think like template does make sense from a different perspective, which is like, we're going to start this from a template, and then it's going to move on to something else. But again, moving on to something else isn't a given. Like, you can still keep it as a template. But if you fork it, it becomes a sandbox or a VM sandbox. Yeah, that's a whole other story. Like if you have a template, can you move from like a static template to a VM, for example? But that, yeah, let's not go down that path. So currently you can't have a template environment that's a VM because that requires a session. It shouldn't have files or dependencies or anything. Or do we configure Sandpack to have an endpoint to connect to a sandbox? And then we do allow you to have a template that's a VM. But what we're going to do is when you connect to that VM, we're going to fork it. So we're always going to create a new VM. Or do we connect to that actual VM and then we only fork it if you make a change to it? So dependencies, dev dependencies. Yeah, and again, this doesn't make, okay, so let's type static template. So that's environment, static. It can have files, but it can't have dependencies, right? But it can have external resources. And then you have bundler template, which is environment bundler. And this can have files, dependencies, and also external resources. And then you have node template. And I'm not sure if this can actually have external resources or, well, it can have dependencies and dev dependencies. I'm not sure it can have external resources. And it can have files. But then if you have a VM template, oh, sorry, this is node. So it could still have files. I don't think dependencies and dev dependencies makes any sense because you would have like a package JSON file. External resources doesn't make any sense. Yeah, and then you have this main thing. So main, yeah, let's just add main to these ones. I don't think node template has a main. Yeah, VM template. So you would have type template. You have all these different templates. So when you open VM template, we're going to open the actual ID and then we're going to fork it if you make a change. That makes sense. Oh, but the problem is the files. Like we can't have files there because to be able to write the files, we actually need to Or maybe we should just do that. That's the thing. Like, what is a VM template? So what we can do is like we can allow you to have files here, and then it will actually write to them, or it can even like check if the file already exists. So, but again, to even have your own template, you have to have an actual VM on. For fuck's sake. Oh my god, my brain is melting. Because you have to have an actual VM to connect to. So you might as well put the initial files there. You can't have this generic template. Because if you have a generic template that you don't actually have access to writing to, we have to fork it every single time Sandpack opens. And then we'll fork again if someone makes a change to it. It just doesn't make any sense to have a VM template where you define what files should be there locally. Okay, well, we're not going to figure this out now. I'm going to just keep this in the back of my mind. Let's drop node template. Let's just have what we actually have here. So we have a type of template. Currently, we only have a type of template, and it's going to be, yeah, and we're going to drop these ones as well. So it's a type of template, and then it's like a static template or a bundler template. OMG. Yeah, and even this one, like layout, there is no tests layout for VMs or yeah. Anyways, sorry, I get hung up on there's so much new information hitting me all the time. It's a little bit hard to environment options. Okay, cool. But I'm generally happy about that. But then let's see, where is the actual? So here we're getting, this should be environment options. Yeah, so Sandpack options provider. What does it actually take in here? Yeah, we need to change this as well. Oh, theme. We should have theme here. Sandpack theme prop. Where are we? Sandpack internal props. So theme needs to be there. Let's drop. Where's the? There you are. I have too many files again. So we have environment options. And then that should be passed into. Okay, and we're gonna have sandbox here. And Sandpack environment provider should really take the sandbox, and it should take the environment options. And this thing is not like environment options. These are all the other options. But let's not pass anything there for now. Well, it has the active file. And that's also a thing. Like, how do you choose the active file if it's not like based on you having a hard-coded set of files? It's like you're just loading a sandbox. I guess we'll find it through... Yeah, so active file actually needs to be part of... where did we go? Sandpack provider props. So even this needs to be... Like, active file only makes sense when you're actually working on a template. Because that's the only time you actually have predictable files. So that's a string, or we'll have to infer the active file if you just loaded the sandbox, or you are connecting to a VM. Just that thing, like how are we going to infer your active file? One thing is the sandbox, because then we have all the files there. But on a VM, we have to go in and read your package JSON. But what if it's not a node environment? What if it's a Rust environment? How do we know which file to show? Maybe we shouldn't show the active file. Like, yeah, we shouldn't. That's the easy answer. Like, you can have an active file if you define the files as a template. That makes sense, but it doesn't make sense to have an active file if you're just loading a sandbox. Maybe to some extent we could infer it, but yeah. So let's do that. And then Sandpack provider needs to have, it's going to be environment options. It's going to be Sandpack environment options. And it's going to be, yeah, the kind of sandbox. Where do we put that type? Oh, export type sandbox. So what we're doing here is that we're taking a look at what kind of, so this would be environment options is props dot. Yeah, and then const sandbox equals props dot sandbox. So environment options. Oh, but that has a type. Ah, this doesn't work. So so my God, I think this is one of the most difficult things I've ever worked on. Like just conceptualizing, untangling, making sense of it all. So environment options here is actually in key of, or type. And type is K. So this is an object of where each key is the type of environment, and then you give it the options. So we need this thing in here as well. And then we're just going to pass in environment options here. Like so. Oh, sorry. Oh, I see now. So we are defining general environment options. And then, let's see. And then we're using the sandbox to determine which environment are we actually running. So currently a sandbox can only be type of template. And that means that we will have an environment. Yeah, so what we can do here is we can say environment options. And then we can do sandbox.environment. I think I have to do a dot there. Or type. Oh, wait a minute. So it's going to be a type of sandbox environment. And then we might have some options that we provide based on the sandbox environment. That's how we're going to do it. And then if there are any sandbox files, write file. Oh, yeah, this is Sandpack bundler files, which is a different kind of type. Yeah, it has code. Okay. .code. Okay, so this is based on actually only having these environments now. And then we'll have to change that later. Why are you complaining? Props. Oh, it's environment options. Okay, let's just call that options then. Yeah, and then there's a bunch of other options. So that would be, options will be Sandpack internal. So we have all these things as well, but some of them are actually bound to the environment. It's not bound to, okay. So let's have a quick look at that. So this means, so we have all this stuff. I'm just going to show it in here for now. So visible files and active file, those are actually part of the template. So let's just move that up. Hi, Darius. So we're using, this is typed currently. I guess we could make, extend Sandpack files. So, okay. Oh my God. And Sandpack files is, Sandpack file is that thing. Okay. We have to, where are we now? Oh, I lost it. Damn it. Where did we go? So we're here, Sandpack provider props. So to keep this thing running, we need to still have, yeah, so like we have some default templates, but I think we can reintroduce this later. Key file template files. How are we gonna do this? I want this to be like low level first. Okay, we're just gonna have, we're gonna reintroduce this later. Active file is actually optional, so that's something we need to just handle. That's fine. Okay, sorry. And then we have init mode, and this is about Sandpack. So this is gonna be moved into, this is an environment option. Intersection observer init. What the hell is that? No idea. Auto run, auto reload, recompile mode, recompile delay, ID, log level. We already have. Okay, so all of this stuff is actually bound to the bundler. At least to some extent. So let's move that into the actual bundler options. I think we have some of it. Like we have sandbox ID here. We have start route. I wonder where like init mode and all of this is used. Auto run, auto. So I guess you can argue like init mode is something you configure not for. Ah, for fuck's sake. So the problem with init mode is that it's not bound to. So we have another axis here. So currently we've been splitting it between Sandpack React being like just showing the code editor, the file explorer, and the preview. And then we have Sandpack environments, which is the actual environment. But now we have init mode, which is a mix of both. It's like based on the type of environment I'm running. Well, if I'm running the bundler environment, and I guess also if I'm using the node environment, or maybe even the static environment, or maybe any environment. Okay. Okay, we're gonna move this one back. And then we have auto run and auto reload. I think these are environment things. Okay, so these are actually based on, like, do we actually want to show Sandpack immediately, lazy, or user visible? Yeah. No, that makes sense. That's a Sandpack option. So this is Sam. Didn't I have? Oh, sorry. I actually removed static template. Oh, didn't I call it? Yeah, static template. What are you complain? Oh, fucking interface. bundler template. Okay, so now we have that typing going for us, which means we don't actually have options classes here. We actually have classes here. Cool. Okay. So now we have the options that are actually related to Sandpack are straight on the props. And then options tied to the specific environment is on environment options. And now we're actually firing up, where are we? And now we're actually firing up the correct environment based on the type of environment from the sandbox, which is currently just, like we just have the template now, but we need to change the initialization here based on adding more stuff. And then we're passing in the environment options. And then we're writing the files to the file system. So let's try building that, see what happens. Oh. Yeah, is this, wait, this is Sandpack? Oh, this is the actual, sorry, this is the top level thing. So Sandpack is, oh, that was just a import thing. So options, okay, this is wrong. It shouldn't be using, where's options coming from? Oh, this is being passed. Oh, sorry, this is the top level component. That should actually be using, wait, where did I put it? Yeah, so this is Sandpack provider. Should there be any difference between the top level Sandpack and the Sandpack provider? I don't think so. Maybe there are. Maybe that's like interesting. Resizable panels. Okay, I guess there are certain, for fuck's sake. So Sandpack internal. So it is using Sandpack internal props, which is all of this stuff, which is like, show console button. Oh, right to left layout. Yeah, so I think this thing is actually specifically for, this is specifically for the top level Sandpack component. Yeah, so we're gonna try something. Where are you? So we're not gonna do this export function Sandpack. We're gonna say you're gonna use Sandpack provider props, and you're gonna have these custom things. Let's just call it Sandpack props. Sandpack props equals Sandpack provider props. Oh, what did I do? And this will be Sandpack props. Oh, I did something bad. What did I do? Oh, Sandpack props. Export function. Oh yeah, classic. So this is not gonna have any of that. It's gonna have theme. Yeah, can't we just call it props? So it's overriding the options. I don't like that. So we're gonna say props, RTL, props. Then we're gonna take another look at those resize thing. Okay, so we don't have active file. Oh, this is provider props, provider options. Yeah, but this would be environment options. Provider options. Oh my God. Sandpack provider. Ooh. Why are we? Okay, so I think we're going to do this a little bit differently. We're going to say, we're going to destructure, and then we're going to say provider props. And then we're going to destructure everything else. So we're going to say layout, show read, show cons. Let's just do one at a time here. Wait, did I do it wrong? Oh. So we have show read only. Oh, come on. We have read only, code editor. We have resizable panels. We have wrap content. We have closable tabs. We have show console. Show console button. Oh, sorry, show console. Show tabs. We have show. But does this really matter? No, wait a minute. This doesn't matter. We can still pass in everything as provider props. We're just, yeah, sorry. Sorry. So we don't need provider props. We just pass in the props because they are kind of mixed now. So we have props, show console, props. Okay, Sandbox. Get mode. Let's look at that later. Show console button, editor width. Is possibly undefined. Oh, interesting. Yeah, we're going to look at that. Props. Why do we base this? Oh, resizable panels. Yeah, so another thing is like actually making this. So Sandpack provider. So the key here is the actual template, which is a little bit weird. I don't think we should have any internal key here. You have to key Sandpack. We don't have custom setup anymore. Like, we don't have any of this. We're just going to pass the props. And then props, editor height, props, resize panels. Yeah, possibly undefined. Props. Okay, cool. It wasn't that bad. But we have some errors here. So first of all, we need Sandpack code options. Okay. And then we have, okay, so resizable panels should be true. So we're going to make that props resizable panels are true. And then we have const then show console, props show console, or false. Okay, so where are we using resizable panels? That was precise. Okay, do we have it anywhere else? Resizable panels. No. Cool, and then we have editor. Yeah, so I think, okay, we need to extract, sorry. So we're gonna say props, but then we're gonna say resizable panels, editor with percentage and show console. Yeah, wait a minute. Oh, for fuck's sake. What we can do is, what we're rather gonna do is resizable panels, editor with percentage, show console, and then the rest of this is props. And then we can actually just do this, right? Yes, we can. And now props doesn't work anymore. So now it's safe. We don't fuck it up later. Wait. Editor height, was that a that's a props thing? Yeah. Okay, so we don't do this, we don't do this, we don't do this, and we don't do this. And none of that, and none of that. Cool. That's the safest way to do this. And then we have Sandbox templates. Not sure why it wasn't able to. Doesn't that also come from the types? Sandbox templates. Yeah, it's coming from. That's weird. Oh, we have Sandbox templates. Okay, so it was. Template. What is template? Oh, so we don't have template. Yeah, of course we don't have template because we have Sandbox now. Oh yeah, because this is template files. Oh, for fuck's sake, what is this thing? You can add mode as a template file? Oh my god. There's so much functionality in this. I don't understand how anyone has ever gotten through all the different things you can do with this. So it seems to me like instead of having an explicit layout, you can also, in your template files, you can create a property called mode. I am just going to remove this. I'll seriously? Like, I know I'm like, when I go through this is not about me dissing on the implementations. Like, I just have to, because my goal here is to clean things up, right? And make things consistent and make it scalable. And to get through that emotionally, I have to like, why did you do this? And like, there's always reasons why you do things, right? But it's just, it exposes like the just insane amount of options, and that makes it harder for me to get to my goal. So I have to vent. That's all it is. Yeah, but I don't have to do people actually use this? So let's comment that out. And look at that. All right, and then we had so what's this? Sandpack utils. Oh shit, we have a lot of stuff. Ugh. Okay, I guess we just have to. Oh. Module presets has already. Oh, module presets. Oh, but then we also have. So that's Sandpack props. But does that mean this also has Sandpack props? Oh, look at that. Oh, there we also had some Sandpack props. Yeah, but we have all that. The custom setup thing, that's yeah, this is something. Oh shit, we have export options. What's export options? That's a new one. And if the entry file is a starting point of the bundle process, but we have main. Okay, but this is part of the environment npm registries. Are these part of the template? But it should go into the environment, that's for sure. Okay, but what are these things? Oh. Okay, but we're gonna redo this because we're not gonna use the API token in the browser. That's not good. Where were we? Sandpack props. Yeah, and custom setup. Okay, I'm gonna just call it old. And then let's build it again. Get Sandpack state from props. Where is this being used? Use files, use app state. But are we using these ones? Or is this just... Can I just comment these out? We're not actually gonna use any of this. Oh, look at this. Sandpack utils. Get Sandpack state from props. This is rough. So now Sandpack provider props doesn't give you this stuff. But we're currently not using it either. Resolve. Oh, there's so much stuff here. Default files to open. librs. Converted files to bundler files. Dependencies. Oh, template ID was actually introduced for VMs, it seems like. Interesting. Okay, how are we going to deal with this? Yeah, but I kind of want to just comment this out instead. Oh, but I can't. Can I effectively do that? Oh, I really hate that you can't like wrap commenting stuff out. Return null as any. Does this still complain? Oh, that was better. No, it still complains. I want to comment this out. So how far does it go? It goes down. Yeah, whatever. Okay, nice. Oh, okay. Yeah, but if it's not used, I guess it's fine. Use files. Yeah, we're not using use files either. What is all this stuff? Delete file? Where's this coming from? Why is Sandpack so concerned about last visible file? Huh. Find active file if missed. Oh, yeah, okay. Now, all this has to be reworked. So use client. We're not using use client either. Let's just comment out use client as well. Can I somehow... I want to more efficiently comment out stuff. Is this all part of use client? Maybe I just need to... File state. We don't have file state anymore. What is all this stuff? Create client. Oh yeah, this is the thing that hooks up. Yeah, this is kind of the old environments thing. Get stable service worker ID. Interesting. Okay, so we still like want this. We have to go through this whole thing. But currently we don't actually want it. So we want to comment it out, but how can I comment out this thing? So I guess I have to like do this or something. And then I have to do the same here. Wonder how people deal with this. Okay, that got us pretty far. There's probably a much better way of doing this. Okay, great. And then, oh yeah, so this is gonna error. Yeah, let's comment you out as well. Use files, use client. We are gonna have to look at all of this stuff eventually. And then use app state. Oh. Original state from props. So this is supposed to return Sandpack state. Yeah, but now, wait, Sandpack app state? Oh. But that doesn't have any files. Wait, where did you go? Yeah, let's just... I wonder if we're ever going to code ourselves out of this. Okay, so now we're having some errors related to... Oh, look at me opening log files. So now we have... But this is going to be... Let's see. Now this is going to be a sandbox of type template. And the environment we're going to run this is in static. And then we're going to have some files for that. And then active file. This is not a thing. An active file is that one. Why is this erroring? Oh. Sandpack bundler files. Oh, so this can be code or okay, I guess this has to be like a string or, but that's going to create a bunch of other issues. Wait a minute, this is Sandpack client. The hell. Okay, I'm just gonna do code here for now, because it's gonna make it happy. Because I'm more eager to get, what are we missing here? Oh yeah, so we're gonna do main now instead. So main is index.html, and the active file is also index.html. And this is just other things. Let's see. Okay. Oh, look at that. So that worked, but we don't have, we're not passing active file anymore to the options. So we don't see the code, but I know why. That is because of our Sandpack options. Let's see, where do we actually use that? So we have Sandpack options provider, and this is going to be using the sandbox. So we're going to call it sandbox instead. Sandpack. So this is going to be sandbox, and this is going to be sandbox. 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 Okay, so I guess, oh yeah, we need to rename this then. So we're gonna use a Sandpack sandbox context, I guess. Yeah, Sandpack sandbox context. We need to rename that. Sandpack sandbox context, Sandpack sandbox provider. Use Sandpack sandbox, I guess. This is gonna be sandbox. Rename sandbox ref. So this is just going to tell us about the actual past in sandbox. Sandpack sandbox provider, use Sandpack sandbox. Yeah, it's kind of overloaded with like prefixing everything with Sandpack, but let's just do that for now. Sandpack sandbox context. Yeah, and I guess this is broken here now. And then we have some other broken stuff, I guess, because we had use Sandpack options. Find use Sandpack options. Options. Yeah, and now we have active file. Okay, let's build it again. So I think our goal for today, I have to make a little summary of where I'm at with this whole thing. Nice. Cool. Oh, interesting how it reloads the preview whenever I change the file. That's interesting. Anyways, yeah, I have to make a summary of where I'm at and how much work I think this is going to be. But I think I really have until June to get all of this stuff into a pristine state. And it's a lot of fun to work with. So, and we really need someone to own this project moving forward. So it's a huge investment, but I think it's going to be worth it. Okay, but now we're going to try to rather load up the bundler. So we're going to change this to the bundler environment. We're not going to have an index file. I think the one thing we're not dealing with here currently is, well, let's just do index.js, index.js. And then we're going to have index. Yeah, maybe I should comment this out for now. Okay, so I'm going to flip back. Where is it? Wait, what did I do? There we are. No, what did I do? There you go. And files here would then be, yes, exactly. Cool. So now we're running the bundler environment and we're just trying to log out something. So it loaded the files, but then there's something going on inside. You see this, it does a double thingy, which it shouldn't do. And I wonder where this happens. So this happens when we're trying to read a file, but where are we trying to read that file from? That's my question. So it's from read all files. So there's some normalization not happening here in the environment because we didn't have these normalized paths, right? Sandpack environments. So read all files. This is being called from here, and I'm saying slash but in read directory we are I wonder because we have this in memory read directory and it normalizes the path. What did it try to read? No such file / index.js. Oh, I know what it is. I know what it is. I'm just adding a slash here. So I think we're actually adding what we're supposed to add here. So this would be okay. Dependencies was not specified. Provide either a package JSON or a dependencies value. Wasn't there like an add? Didn't it do like an add if package JSON not there? Add add package JSON if needed. Console.log. That was a little bit weird. Okay, so we have the code, but package.json is undefined. Result, return result. So this is kind of why I have to go through all the code to kind of build up some intuition on why wasn't that undefined? Files? That's weird. Why? Isn't that weird? Files package JSON equals undefined. Why isn't it undefined? It is undefined. Why isn't it running this code? Oh, I think, of course, it's coming from add package JSON if needed. Sorry, my bad. So why does it say dependencies was not specified? So if it doesn't have dependencies, it throws an error? Why does it do that? What if I don't have any dependencies? And it's optional. Oh, sorry, that's dev. Yeah, it's optional. Why do you care about that? I'm just gonna try to comment that one out. Okay, so that was fine. That's weird. I think we can remove that. But the question now is, why the hell didn't we see anything? Okay, so we need to figure out what's happening inside its preview. This is gonna be rough. So, global listen. Are we even getting anything here? No, we're not. Like, is it even loading the iframe? Oh, we have the loading. Oh, yeah. I think I know what it is. But yeah, still we need. Oh, wait a minute. There should be an iframe behind it. Yeah. So we do have the iframe there. Oh, it doesn't seem to set its initial. Okay, this is interesting because we did have this set configure iframe protocol, and then it was supposed to set location URL into iframe. Ban. Yeah, I think we removed this. Yeah. So we need to do that. And I guess we want to do that after we set the iframe. Did anything happen? Okay, at least it's set the thing now. Let's see if we're getting any messages now. Wireframe protocol. Let's see. Oh, but this isn't good. Shouldn't I get something here? Channel listen. Oh, this is also something. What's that? Okay, so I'm not getting anything here. Why am I not getting anything here? That's tricky. Like I should be getting some message here. So it's loading all the bundling stuff. But it, oh, wait a minute. Is it because I'm not actually sending the files into the thing? Update Sandbox. So this is like, yeah, but this is like global listen. I think this should have file resolver. Like we're not getting anything from the iframe. And what I'm wondering is, does it have to do with, I'm just going to try one thing here. Because now we're building the iframe outside of the DOM, and then we append it. So I'm curious if, oh, I still built it. Oh, look at that. We're getting messages. Okay, that's interesting. So we cannot dagnag it. So what this basically means is that we can't. So I changed one thing, and that is, why aren't we using the file resolver protocol? Anyways, so we are currently creating the iframe here, but it needs to be appended to the DOM before we can actually do something. So what we can do is we can make the initialization of the iframe lazy. So it's only when you've actually, so we can make the iframe getter. And when you get the iframe, which you only do to actually append it. Like there's no guarantee though. Why did it work with the other one? Why did it work with the other one? I don't like this. Do we really have to change it again? I don't want to change it. Like, because mounting an iframe in React is async. And that means the whole, like, you can create a preview. Okay, maybe we have to do that. So, dag nugget. So basically the problem is that we have an iframe that we need to mount. And currently I thought I could mount that iframe, or I could create the iframe inside the Sandpack preview. But what I think we need to do, and the thing is, like, you can't really call these methods unless you've actually mounted it. But it's not a big deal. But the challenge is that inside the class, we also need to inside the class, we need a reference to the iframe. And now that we're putting it in there by mounting it, like we're getting all this undefined things, or the iframe might be undefined, which is just weird. So none of these things can actually happen until you actually have the iframe. But then you get this initialization orchestration stuff that's just horrible. It's so much better to just create the preview, you have this iframe, and you just append it to the DOM. But then again, that's weird in React, because in React you want to create the iframe and then you want to use it as a ref. Oh, I wonder why it happens though. I guess it doesn't have a content window. Maybe it's that. I'm gonna try something. So what if we remove frame window? And then we're rather gonna, oops. We're rather gonna paint this dot iframe. What the fuck? What was it? Oh. Iframe. HTML iframe element. Or we can, okay, I'm gonna do something else to make it a little bit simpler. Just, oops. So we're gonna say private iframe. Then we're gonna make this a getter. See if that fixes anything. I removed the set timeout, right? Yeah. Oh, look at me being a proper engineer. Okay. I think that's That's good. It was just because we were pointing to content window before the iframe was mounted in the DOM. Okay, so now we're getting a bunch of messages. It's initialized. Start. Status. We're getting a bunch of statuses. Then we're getting test. Resize. Console. Done. Okay. So we're getting the things. We're getting the stuff. So what I think... Oh, look at that. Hello world. It worked. Nice. That's awesome. It actually worked. So now it's more about... we're changing this status now. And we should get it to ready, right? So in our actual React, let's see, now we have a chance in React Sandpack to actually show inside the preview. We have a chance to actually, loading overlay. So we're supposed to get like a new loading overlay state. We're supposed to... Oh, look at that. It's actually hidden. Okay, cool. So it's just because I'm not showing anything. Okay. Look at that. It's working. Okay, you know what? I think I'm actually gonna summarize the stuff I've been doing and the plans I have for this project. What we need to do, so like the general plan, like I'm going for Easter holiday, but the plan now is like we got them, like I want the minimal environment to run for each of them using the same interface. That's kind of the goal here. And we've also structured it so that each environment has its own options. Templates have their own options depending on the environment they're going to run in. Like a template is bound to an environment, and then the options are based on that. Yeah, so the goal is to now, we're going to get in the node environment. Even though that's going to be deprecated, I want to see it run. And then the thing is that this is going to be a huge breaking change. So, well, not a huge breaking change, but it's going to be a breaking change. But what was I going to say? Yes, so we're going to get node running there. And then we're also going to get the VM running here. And when all of those are running, we are going to enable loading up an actual sandbox. Like we're going to implement, we're going to allow, get the environments running, ability to load up existing sandboxes, including VMs, by using like the sandbox property. So that's data we get from the server that we're going to shove in there and then load them up. And after that, we're going to implement the actions. And after actions, we need to go through everything in Sandpack React to make sure that things still works. And then we're done. Yeah, so this is definitely doable, but this is not, yeah. Okay, but that's or maybe like I guess I can continue streaming while I write this stuff down. So the thing I want to explain to people is that so the thing I want to explain is that this is how and this bundler is running in an iframe. Let's see. This is kind of the architecture of the whole thing. So this was the original architecture. Oh, we shouldn't have a bundler there. So the original architecture of Sandpack React was to have files and options. Was to have some files and some options where you passed a bunch of options into Sandpack client. And Sandpack client was kind of this, the backend, how should I put it? It was basically the client, like this is the backend, right? The bundler is the backend iframe. And this is the client that's managing the bundler. All the messages going back and forth there. So, boop, 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 boop. Messages. Cool. Which was the bundler, and Sandpack client was basically the client in front of the bundler. So you could much more easily, let's not be so sarcastic. So you could pass in files and options, and you would get a Sandpack client back, which Sandpack React could use to build up its UI, right? That made a lot of sense. But then we got to this new world of, okay, let's just put, oh, what did I do? We got to this new world where we had like we had different implementation. Come on. You know what? I'm actually about to change back to Excalidraw. I kind of miss it. Oh, I can just drag this one. So we had like multiple backends basically. Notebooks. Yeah, I'm not even going to include the VM here. So we had all of this stuff, and they actually have different messages. That's the whole point. They communicate a different way. Yeah, let's just do messages like this. So I'm trying to defend what I'm doing here. I don't know why, like I have a lot of trust from the team working so long together. But at the same time, I feel like I have to defend why I'm doing this. Not because of the team, but more for myself, I guess. So the point is that more options, files and more options. Static messages, bundler messages, nullbox messages. Okay. Yeah, and this is still backend iframe static backend, static backend, bundler backend, and notebox backend. Static preview. I want to emphasize that it's like a static preview, bundler preview, and notebox preview. And this is the preview. Oh, look at that. Preview iframe backend. So you have a static preview, a bundle preview, and a notebox preview. And now, okay, let's move this stuff. So we moved to this world. And that was kind of the status quo of things. And then we started working on adding yet another environment here, which is a VM. But now there is no, it doesn't even fit into this mold because there is no preview anymore. How should we put this? So now we have suddenly like this VM on the end here, which is just a different beast, which is more like I guess it's a web. I guess it's picture client. Picture client. Let's give it some more room. You have to excuse. So picture client is the actual the client that actually, kind of like how Sandpack client talks to like the static bundler notebooks environments. You have picture client that talks to the VMs. And then, but then we kind of shoved a preview, VM preview, but that isn't running any bundler, right? There's just like a VM preview. How are we gonna preview iframe backend? Yeah, okay, I can just talk about that. So now there's like this other thing that's just a preview that doesn't really have any message passing. It's not the backend. The VM is the backend, but it still has a preview. So yeah, it's just to kind of show how it doesn't. And even more options. Okay, so that's what we tried to do. And then what I've been working on is, let's see. Oh my God, look at me messing it up. So what I've been working on is changing this into something called Sandpack environments. And we have, oops, a new interface here. Where like it completely changes. How should we put this? So it's an interface of fs create preview, basically. Okay, how should we put this? Fs create preview. And then, oh, this is going to be beautiful. Let's see, it's going to be status, fs, yeah, basically status fs create preview. That's okay. And then we're still gonna have these static things. Let's see. And we're okay, so we're still gonna have. How are we gonna put this? Can I kind of like do this or something? I kind of want to show that. This is annoying. So we have, instead of these bundler messages, we kind of have this. Can I do this? No, that's okay. No, what the hell? Oh my god. I thought it was all gone. Can I just make it smaller? Okay, we're gonna change this. So we're just gonna say interface. And we're just gonna say interface. And the interface is this thing. Interface. And we're gonna give it a freaking color. Environment interface. So we have created an environment interface. And then we can, let's just remove that and copy it again. And then we're gonna do this, and we're gonna say interface, interface, interface. And now suddenly this makes, all this makes sense. Yeah, you know what? I didn't. So it's not just like a preview. You kind of have something in front of this as well. How should we put this? No, wait, that's not true. Here you have that thing. Yeah, and we're just trying to shove everything into Sandpack client. Yeah. But now we have, yeah, and then Sandpack environments. Now you kind of have this environment wrapper around each of these. How should I show that? How are we going to show this? So previously, well, you kind of had, okay, no, so that's the thing. And then we encapsulated these. Yeah, no, I want to show that we actually did encapsulate these. Maybe I don't have to show that. The whole point there is that we're rather now doing how are we gonna explain this? Static. Okay, environment. Okay, I'm gonna simplify. Static n, bundler n, notebooks n, VM n. And let's just drop. And they all provide an iframe. Yeah, I'm not really good at drawing this, am I? The whole point is, like, I want to show that there's an encapsulation here. But yeah, whatever. So now you have sandbox, environment, options. Okay, sandbox and environment options. Okay. So the point of sandbox and environment options is that sandbox options and environment options. So sandbox options are specific to the sandbox, and environment options are specific to the environment, unrelated to the specific sandbox. Okay, so this is what I've done, and then the whole point of this is so that, let's copy this thing over here, and I guess we can put that at the top. The whole point of this is that you can put a server here, or you can choose, really. Local template. Yeah, maybe we don't have to do this. So this could be, let's make it static bundler node. Well, okay, template. Yeah, maybe I don't have to say anything. Or you can load a sandbox. Okay, well, how should I explain this? So the point is that Sandpack React now takes a template or a sandbox. Or a VM session. Sandbox VM. So a template currently means that you're local, but yeah. Okay, so the thing is that we really want is, like, ideally you should be able to have a sandbox VM as a template. But the problem is that for us to write files to that template, or like even just showing the files from the VM, we have to write the files to the VM. And doing that requires us to create a new VM every time you want to show that content. That just doesn't work. So you kind of have to go to CodeSandbox to kind of create the VM with and make it act as a template. Yeah, so what I think we can do as kind of a final thing in our code here is Where were we? So Sandpack React, where are you? Types. Hello, types. There you are. So this whole Sandpack setup, where is the actual type Sandpack? Sorry, Sandbox. Oh. So what we can do here is when you have a VM template, you can only give it a Sandbox ID. That's how we can handle that. Because then we know it's a template. Yeah, let's do that. So we're going to just add node template, doesn't have any external resources. And then we're going to have VM template, which is going to be VM node. I guess we can call this notebooks, but yeah, VM template. It doesn't take any files, anything. It just takes a Sandbox ID. That's how we're gonna solve it. Node template or VM template. I guess we broke something now. Yes, because then it indicates that yes, you can load up a template. It's gonna act as a template within Sandpack React, meaning that it's like it knows how to deal with it. So that means that if you're making changes to a VM template, it has to fork it. But yeah, so you can have a template, you can have a sandbox, or you can have a sandbox VM. What should we call this? It's like, either you have a template. It's kind of weird. Like, it's kind of like you have 3 different modes. Yeah, okay, yes. So you have a template. Yes. Local changes. So if you have static bundler node, how should I put this? Static takes, okay, static files, bundler takes files, node takes files, VM sandbox ID. And then you have, well, maybe I should just explain this. Okay. Template, load sandbox, connect VM. So these are the different ways you can use Sandpack React. And then you have some features here. Fork. Fork from template. Forced with VM. Load existing sandboxes. Connect to existing VMs. Well, yeah, this is the thing. Okay. How are we gonna explain this? I'm gonna explain this as these are the different ways. Yes, and then on the other side of this thing, we have something called actions. So these actions would be fork, create, not create, fork, create file, delete file. Wait a minute. We didn't want the template to just be a sandbox ID. Ah, for fuck's sake. It needs to be an actual session. Yeah. Session. It needs, okay, sorry. So a template can be a set of files for local sandboxes that are like static, bundler, or node. But when you have a VM template, it needs to be based on a session. So you have to load that from the server. Yeah, exactly. Like if you're ever going to show a template at all, like even if it's a VM, you have to have a session to even see it. So you'll have to start that session from the server. And yeah, I'm having a hard time concluding on like creating this session to connect to a VM. And like, what's the difference of loading a sandbox versus a template? In the sense that the problem is that if you give it an ID, okay, so what if this was, okay, we can have fork, we can have get sandbox, fork sandbox, get sandbox, start sandbox, create file. Yeah, but this is okay. Anyways, create file, delete file. So we have all these actions. So let's say you can have a sandbox ID. That's the only thing you can pass on a VM template. But it's almost like it's not even a template. Oh, wait a minute. Let's not call it VM. So you have You have a type template. Let's just call it sandbox template. Environment sandbox, and you have. Do we already have a sandbox template? Of course we do. Or external template, whatever. Yeah, and this is the thing. Oh, this is interesting. So you have an external template. So that means that you only have a reference to a sandbox ID, right? And the whole point is that we don't know, since we support browser sandboxes and VM sandboxes, we have to actually return to Sandpack React what kind of sandbox it is for it to be able to infer what environment should be running. So I want to say the environment is like external in the sense that, okay, you're going to go and grab like a sandbox from somewhere. And then when you define that, Sandpack React takes over using the actions to go and get, we could call it like, yeah, let's just imagine that. So there's an external template, and that's going to go and grab, and you give it a sandbox ID. So you can go and grab a sandbox from the CodeSandbox database. You can give it a VM ID, and it doesn't matter. When it's external, it's going to figure out what environment it's actually going to run. But it's treated as a template, right? Which means that it's like read only, you can't mess around with it. And then when you fork it, we're going to choose what you're going to fork it to. So based on the environment of the template, it's gonna, or you can choose based on the environment of the template, you can choose how you want to fork it. Maybe you just want to keep it as is. You just return the same sandbox, right? So a user is making changes to the sandbox. You have a fork thing, but then you're just going to return the same sandbox, and that's fine. So you're just going to continue working in the same sandbox. But then you can choose to actually go and create a sandbox. And then you return that thing. Does that make any sense? No, that doesn't make any sense. No, it does make sense. But that means you don't only have templates, you also have... Yeah, no, I think that makes sense. But why do we have external when we could rather have... No. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. So why do we call it a template? It's a starting point. It's something that's gonna trigger a fork when you make a change to it. That's what a template is. You can decide what you want to do with that fork. If you want to just stay in the same experience, or if you actually want to fork off into something else. But that's what a template does. And then, but a template can be different things. Yeah, no, it needs to be like an actual session. So you have VM template, which is a session, but then you also have the possibility to just give actual sandbox data from our database. Yeah, but still you can give a sandbox. Yeah, sorry. So you can give it a sandbox ID. You can give it, but I think this is the thing. Like, why have VM specifically here? Why not just have? Yeah, so it's kind of like external template. And that's just a sandbox ID, because what we're going to do with that template is that we're going to use the get sandbox action to go and grab the sandbox, and then we're going to evaluate what it actually is. Okay, let's call it external. Oh, this is exhausting. This is so exhausting. Okay, again, template can be static, it can be bundler, it can be node, or it can be external. Or I want to call it a sandbox, and not external, but it can be a sandbox. Sandbox. We just have to. I'm not sure why. Why do we have sandbox template here? Sandbox template. Oh yeah, let's just remove that one. Where was it? External template. This is a sandbox template. Cool. Okay. Cool. So we're going to have a template of static, bundler, node, or sandbox, where static, bundler, and node allows you to define the files right there in your code. But if you choose sandbox, you're going to give a sandbox reference. And this can be your own reference, right? It doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to come from CodeSandbox. But the point is, if you do that, you have to have defined these actions of fork sandbox, get sandbox, start sandbox, create file, delete file, and so on and so on. And fork sandbox will be called whenever a template changes its code. Like a user has interacted with your template, fork sandbox is going to be called. And you can decide what you want to do with that. So the first argument you get is the actual sandbox, right? What's the current sandbox? And you can choose to just return the same thing. So if you have a static template and someone changes that, it's going to call fork sandbox, and you can just return that same static template. And it will just continue running. But if you have a sandbox template, you want to actually fork that off, right? To a new sandbox. And then you're able to call something that forks it. And again, it doesn't have to be CodeSandbox. That's the whole point. But you fork and do the thing. And if it was an actual VM sandbox, you would also start the sandbox. And you would return. So this would be a browser sandbox. And a VM sandbox. Yes. So that's kind of the most complex part. But if you go in and you just load a browser sandbox, so we haven't typed that yet. So this would be export, sorry. So this is like the template thing, or, so it would be like this, or we have type. Well, I guess we don't really have, we just have sandbox. Because we're gonna evaluate based on the sandbox how we're gonna connect to it or what environment we're gonna use. Yes. But when you load a sandbox, the intention is that you're actually going to work on that sandbox, right? So this is going to fork. Yeah. Okay, it is coming together now because, okay, so there's two modes of loading Sandpack React. You can load a template where you can have locally defined files for a static bundler or node environment. And then you can allow people to just play around and do whatever they want there. But you can also define a sandbox as a template. And that means that when someone interacts with it, you need to fork it off, right? But you could also do the same for static bundler and node if you wanted to do that. So you, instead of having like generated sandboxes persisted somewhere as a starting template, you can just write it right in there. But then you can also choose to not load a template. You can load an actual sandbox. And loading an actual sandbox is gonna so static bundler. Okay, static bundler. Manually choose environment. Environment. Well, not true. Not for sandbox. Yeah, there's something about this. It's kind of like, what is a sandbox? What if you rather said, it's not called a template. You pass in a template, you pass it, sorry. This is really how I intended it, like thinking about the refactor of the interface. So you pass in a sandbox, but then you can say that it's a template, which is gonna dictate its behavior, right? So so either it's custom static bundler node, or you pass in a sandbox ID, and you can choose if it's a template. Yeah, I think I like this because what happens now is that template. So you're passing in sandbox, but you can have a flag on Sandpack that says template. Like it's a prop called template. And if it is a template, it's going to dictate the behavior. So when it's a template, it's actually going to try to fork the sandbox. Because the point is that now you don't only have templates, you're also able to load a sandbox ID. But you can choose to have the template behavior for this sandbox ID if you want to do that. Or you can actually just interact with that sandbox, right? Yeah, so it's kind of like on CodeSandbox, we have templates. And that's just an option. It's just a flag on the sandbox that it is a template. And that's exactly what we're doing here as well. It's first and foremost a sandbox, and then it's optionally a template. It's not the other way around. Okay, this is good. And then this template flag dictates if it's going to try to fork the sandbox. Get sandbox, it uses when there's a sandbox ID where it infers the environment, and where it will run start sandbox if it needs to do that. And then you have create file, delete file to talk back to whatever persistence you want. Okay, so now that we have that, okay, I should be able to explain this now. So when we have this in place, now we can look at these actions. So let's have Sandpack React here still. And now you can have a backend server. And this is gonna give you all of this stuff. And let's make them talk back and forth. And behind this server, you can choose what you want to do. CSB, custom, CSB SDK, custom. Okay. I think that's it. That's going to tell the story of what we're trying to do. Sorry. Yes. Okay, cool. I'm gonna stop the stream. I'm gonna try to make a video and share this with the team, and then we won't be able to continue on this until after. We won't be able to continue on this until after Easter. So I'm gonna make sure that I push this, and then yeah, as I said, next step is, what was the next step? Yeah, we're gonna get them all environments running. That's the first thing we're gonna do. Because we got bundler running now. We need Node to be running, Nodebox. We want to be able to connect to a VM, but to be able to do that, we need these actions first. So maybe we could introduce the first start sandbox action. No, get Sandbox and then start Sandbox. Yeah, or start Sandbox, because we could, of course, get the Sandbox to start the Sandbox. Well, that's the thing. We don't know. We have to get the Sandbox before we can start it. Yeah, so... yeah, we'll figure that out. But anyways, and then we have that action. We have all the environments actually running. And then we can expand on the actions. And we can like continue building the playground using the CSB SDK, hooking into all these actions. And after that, it's basically just going through Sandpack again and again and again, remove all fluff, making options clear, stuff like that. Yeah, that's a good plan. Okay, thanks for following along, and bye for now.